Thanks, Bill, for such a wide-ranging speech on some of those over-the-horizon issues. We have a short period of time for questions, so if you wish to put your hand up and indicate you'd like to ask one, we'll get a microphone to you promptly.
You can just make a statement and say, do I agree at the end if you like.
Well, very timid audience. No takers? Well, I'll ask a question. You talked about the challenges, and we've certainly talked about it over the last day here, of the short-term political cycle and how that makes it very challenging to take some of those long-term decisions. And you referenced a couple of examples in generations past where that has been overcome. I'm just wondering what you think needs to happen in the short term here for those, I guess, big-term policies to be, I guess, considered and adapted and implemented.
Elect a Labor government. And why would you want to do that? Because we get it. We just get what the future's about. I watch the government say there's no role for the government in schools. The government says we don't run schools. But that tends to dodge the real issue, doesn't it? They fund schools. You can't have a future strategy based on wholesale cuts to education. Higher education's been bogged down in some sort of debate about, deregulation with cost cutting. What we need to do is sit down with our universities and work out how we get more kids completing university. How do we get more adults back into university? Our TAFE sector, we've seen the flight out of public funded TAFE. We need to reverse that. When it comes to working through innovation, we can work with the government on these topics. Providing an accelerated depreciation of $20,000 is good as far as it goes. But that whole budget, which is allowed for that, will add up over 2 years to $5 billion, and yet we've got a $100 billion transition out of our economy of mining investment. We need to build confidence. Confidence is done by building infrastructure, getting things done, by putting money into our education. It also involves, I have to say, and I mentioned it briefly, tackling inequality in our country. You can't have sustainable long-term growth without improving equality, because each underpins the other. That's why I'd say vote for us.
Question? Oh, yep, great, thank you. Can you just make sure you state your name and your organisation, please?
Marty Dungy, University of Tasmania. Thank you for outlining your manifesto towards education, which of course, as someone involved in the university sector, I'm very interested in. One of the things that I talked about yesterday when I was lucky enough to be sitting up where you are is that I would like to see a future where students are encouraged to be both science savvy, so they have some hard evidence-based approaches for making decisions, but also are well trained in social sciences so that they have a capacity to think about how those then impact upon decision-making and societal choices, so they can be fully participative in the society's decisions. So I'd like to see your reaction to that, because we hear a lot about STEM debate and how we need to get more science back into schools, and very little about how we need other skills to participate in a well-educated workforce and society.
It's a very fair point. And if you're talking about STEM, what's the place for other disciplines and learning? I should just declare my conflict of interest. I have an arts degree, I have a law degree, and I have an MBA. So I've seen different forms of discipline. My mum was a teacher her whole life. She worked in universities for much of her adult life. I get that it's not just all about STEM. But what I also believe at the moment is that a lot of the new jobs that are going to be created, which we're competing with the rest of the world in, require those disciplines. So nothing I say should be viewed that we shouldn't be properly funding higher education. Nothing I say shouldn't be viewed about the importance of a whole lot of learning and a whole lot of different disciplines. But my perception is that if we're going through a second machine age, if our competition is to ride the wave of automation, then we do need to get more women doing STEM. We need to get people from different backgrounds thinking it's possible to do STEM. We need to make sure that a lot of the teachers who are teaching in our school system are being pushed to teach topics which they didn't train in when they did their teaching degrees. That's why I want to invest more in teaching. Certainly I would say, in conclusion, I think the status of teaching in this country has not kept pace with its importance in the last 50 years. When you're a child in the working class in the 1950s, teaching was a good career, just as perhaps going into banking was. or another, or the public service. What I think's happened with teaching is somewhere along the line we started to undervalue it. How you can expect to get the best outcomes when we don't remunerate our teachers as well as we remunerate other occupations, I think lets our teachers down. Sometimes there's some on the Conservative side like to sneer at teacher unions and why on earth would you have Gonski or needs-based funding? It's just a education union plot. The truth of the matter is that we need to value every aspect of education more than we do. That's why I thought when the government did their stimulus package and we invested in school infrastructure, our critics sneered at it, but realistically, since the Second World War, we've been building schools in our new suburbs which weren't designed to last for more than 25 years. And yet they're there 50 and 60 years later. Because of a previous Labor government, we put money into school capital, which has never been seen the like of since before the Second World War. And the importance of that is the children in our world rely upon the adults for the leadership. They take our cues upon what's important. In our homes, people can have a giant TV and a cinema room. They can go to a Westfield shopping centre and see the latest in building amenity. When they go to our schools, the adults in their lives for 2 generations have been putting them in underfunded, inadequate infrastructure, and we've been asking our teachers to do miracles and not even remunerating them properly. So I hope that puts your mind at ease on a few of the matters, and I remain firmly committed to the social sciences. I should leave while I'm having such a good time. It's always good to leave a party while you're having fun.
I'd like to ask Patricia O'Callaghan from Townsville Enterprise to offer the vote of thanks.